Okay, welcome back to the Normal Sports Show. Last show of the year. I'm here with Jason Page, as always. Jason, as my right hand man. Jason, how we doing? You getting into the Christmas season, Christmas spirit?
We're nearly there, crawling over the finish line, but it's around the corner. Yep.
What crawling over the finish line in what way?
Just obligations of Christmas, presents. It's always kind of a, I don't know, fun and stressful time, but I think I'm going to take it pretty easy this year, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's the joy of having our own business here. Our guest today, our primary guest, other than me and Jason being on here, Brentley Romine of Golf Channel. What are all your titles, Brentley? Give us the rundown.
I think it's still staff writer, but I'm not a big title guy. I kind of do whatever needs to be done, and I enjoy having multiple irons in the fire. So appreciate being on the last show too. It's kind of like the Normal Sport Advent calendar where I just pop out, surprise.
Well, people probably recognize you from a number of different things, but maybe this audience primarily from your work on the U.S. Amateur this year, which was really good, and just that whole, were you at U.S. Amateur or NCAAs or both? Okay,
but the USAM is kind of the viral moment with Niles Shields-Donegan,
yes,
and all of Mill Valley, and all the trips to Vans Warped Tour over the years got me ready for the mosh pit.
Sometimes I conflate those two in my head, the NCAAs and the USAM. But yes, I'm thinking of USAM at Olympic. What's that like for you? I know what my experience is of like kind of transitioning from writing to being on, have the cameras on, being on TV or whatever. Do you enjoy it? Is it difficult for you? Like, how do you think about, I'm on TV this week, this is going to be different than maybe like what I do with writing?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's nerve-wracking, and I don't know if it gets easier, but I don't know if it gets any less, like the feeling is still the same, like right before the red light goes on. And some of it is just, writing it's more of a slower paced thing, right? You can collect your thoughts, you can sit down, do whatever you need to do. And oftentimes when you're interviewing for writing, there's open-ended questions. It's more of like a conversation. I just feel so much pressure to get it right when it's on television, because it's the players, like these are some of the biggest moments. And especially on the amateur side, it could be the biggest moment of their lives. Like who knows what Niles Shields-Donegan is going to do as a pro. Like this could be his moment at Olympic, and you really want to get it right because everyone's watching, and ultimately it's going to get clipped and it's going to live on social media forever. So I think that's probably some of it, is just caring about it and wanting to do a good job. Not that I don't with writing, but again, it's if you stumble or you stutter or you ask a dumb question, that'll live forever.
Yeah, you don't get to hit backspace on any of those. I remember doing, I think it was Morning Drive on Golf Channel, and Damon Hack was hosting, and he was like, maybe I've said this, maybe I haven't. I've definitely told people behind the scenes, but he was so unbelievably good at these tiny, like, not ticks, but tiny little things to acknowledge, like, okay, I'm going to you next, or like, he just ran the show so well. And if you're watching on TV, you wouldn't be able to tell it, but being next to him, you're like, this guy's unbelievable at his job. Like, he's so good at it. Who for you, and I know there's a ton of people, but who for you behind the scenes, like, really set you up for success, or really like is amazing at their job, that maybe us watching on, watching the event or the show, we wouldn't necessarily even be able to tell.
Well, also with Damon, he's an incredible writer too, with the days with SI. And I think that's a lot of it, right? It comes out because when you write, you know how to organize, news value. Usually your grammar's good. So yeah, I'm with you on Damon there. I'm going to probably say a closer colleague, someone who I'm a little closer to, and that's Steve Burkowski. He's kind of in a similar vein of what I maybe want to aspire to be, and someone who can do a little bit of everything, and someone who's never lost the love for amateur golf or college golf or kind of the more pure aspects of the game. And he can host. He's unbelievable at that. We do a podcast. He steers that really well. He can interview. He can just do it all. I mean, he can do all these little, Haskins Award, Annika Award bits, and it all comes super natural to him. And now he's doing A10 basketball as well. So he's the voice of the A10. And so he did get his Twitter account hacked recently, so maybe not the best judge of when to click links in your direct messaging, but he did just get it back. So a great early Christmas present. But no, Burko is the absolute best and a huge mentor and someone who gives great feedback. And I never forget when I did the first day with Niall. We did back-to-back interviews in the crowd, but the very first one, I was pretty nervous up until that point. I'd kind of messed up a little bit, and some of my hits where I would come in and talk, it wasn't really, A++, but I did the Niall thing in the crowd. Like, it was my idea too. I'm like, should I just do this in the crowd? I think it'd be cool. And it just happened, and it was awesome. And I remember the text that Burko sent me right afterwards. And I mean, remember, he's the play-by-play, but he literally said, "Great job," bunch of exclamation points. And I think validation like that is, you need people like that rooting for you.
That's awesome. Do you guys still? I think I remember it was either him and you, or maybe just him. In 2018, at in Stillwater, when Oklahoma State's playing Alabama, I was going to a coffee shop there. The morning of the championship, like the championship matches were happening later that day. This coffee shop where actually my wife and I kind of first started talking and hanging out many, many years ago, because I went to school at Oklahoma State. And I remember it's called Aspen. I remember seeing him talking to, I think it was Alan Bratton was there on the morning of the championship matches. Is that something that you guys still do with at the NCAAs with the coaches?
Yeah, so I forget when it actually started, but the term for that is breakfast with Burko, and it's usually coffee with Burko. Or this year, Bowen Sargent from Virginia, he's not a coffee guy, so it was Cokes with Burko. So, but no, so I wasn't at Golf Channel just yet. I was still at Golf Week. But yeah, Burko's been doing that for about 10 years, and I've since joined him since I've been on the broadcast and writing, because it's really a great time to spend with the coaches. And it's the two coaches that make the final that Wednesday morning, an hour each. They go back to back, not at the same time. And you just dive into their story, their program stories, all 5 players. And it's one of those things that if you're just showing up an hour early on the range before the biggest round of these players' lives, you're probably not getting much, and you're not able to spend that much time. So we get into the nitty-gritty of it all, and it's really an ingenious tradition that Burko's done, and it helps on the broadcast, and it helps writing as well. Like the gamers, the last few years that I've written, probably super late because it's on the West Coast at Omni La Costa, but they've had a lot of good nuggets. And a good example is this year, Northwestern women, they ended up beating Stanford, but that morning, Emily Fletcher, the coach, shared with me that her star player, Lauren Nguyen, her parents had come over on a raft from Vietnam. And I may have known that, but it definitely didn't ring a bell. And she said her mom was actually flying in that morning to surprise Lauren. And I went out and talked to her mom right before. We got photos of them on the raft when her mom was 5 years old, and used that on the broadcast. It was part of my gamer. And then fast forward to last month, Lauren played in the Annika event at Pelican, and she was the GameBridge sponsor. And I had heard through the grapevine that GameBridge and Caitlin Clark had read that story, and were like, wow, like we have to invite this girl. So it's just kind of proof that what we do, even though it may seem insignificant, sometimes it could have a huge impact.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think it was Labner, by the way. I think it was Labner and Burko at that time, 2018.
Yeah, it's breakfast with Burko and libations with Lab afterwards.
That checks out. I got one more question before we jump into kind of our fun little exercise today, and maybe Jason has a couple as well. But what is it like for you? Because you kind of live in these two different worlds of amateur golf, NCAA golf, but also, like we hang out at times at major championships, and you're covering major championships and covering pro golf to an extent for Golf Channel. Do you find that one informs the other? Do you find them to be two totally separate worlds? Like how do you sort of view that as you think about those two spots that you're kind of reporting and writing in?
Yeah, I definitely feel like it's an advantage to be able to cover players as early as possible. Some people might not agree with that, and certainly if you're on the road covering the PGA Tour 20 weeks a year and you have a family, it's pretty much impossible to do your USAMs and your NCAAs. Like, I don't know many humans who have the bandwidth to do all of that. I'm essentially just traveling to some major championships, maybe some local tour events. But I definitely do feel like my relationships that have been developed when guys were in high school help out to a certain extent. And maybe it's not necessarily these guys are coming up and giving me details or stories that they're giving nobody else when they reach top 10 in the world. But knowing kind of the background, having some moments of them as a junior player, having relationships with their college coaches to where I could literally send a text message and they'll call me back, and to be able to have those extra resources, know the parents. A lot of times, just going to a major championship, may see a parent that I haven't seen in 10 years. So all of that helps. And like, for instance, with Scotty Scheffler, I covered him for the first time in 2012 at the Wyndham Cup at Bay Hill. And then the next year was at Martis Camp when he won the US Junior. Not that, that necessarily makes me on Scotty's short list of media people, but I definitely think, maybe down the road, if I'm doing television stuff or, on camera reporting or anything with Scotty, maybe there's a little bit more comfortability, and you can always get maybe a little bit better answers if a player is comfortable with you. So I definitely feel like there's many aspects of still being involved in the college game. And then selfishly too, I just love telling stories that people might not know or people haven't told. Like when you go to US Open, how many Rory blogs are there on a Tuesday afternoon after he speaks? There's like 60.
Many.
So it's really hard to stand out in that sense, but how many players or how many people in the media have done a feature on Luke Clanton yet, or a feature on, pick a player in college right now. So, I just, it's super fun. And I don't know if I'll ever, kind of like Burko says, it just, the passion for college golf and amateur golf, I don't think it'll go away.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot about just like we'd love for more meaningful golf in the schedule, and I feel like the events that you cover, they're inherently full of meaning. What do you find in those atmospheres or environments that creates that year after year?
Well, Q School is a great example too. I just came back from that, and I was getting a little emotional seeing Marcelo Rosso, the 36-year-old from Colombia. He had his wife and his 2-year-old son, and Camilo Villegas, who is his idol and countryman. They were waiting, and the scene of him finally earning a tour card after the loss of his brother at 19, who was a budding college golfer, his grandfather 3 years after that, wrist surgery, thought about going into real estate, all of these things that we had uncovered about his story throughout the week, to have him, be driving back to scoring and having his wife and his son just jumping up and down and screaming and crying, and then them embracing. Those are the kind of moments you don't get at the pick a tour event. You don't get that at the Cognizant Classic or the RBC Heritage. Hey, well, but the Cognizant
or
Classic,
the Sanderson.
Probably more of a chance of getting it at that than a signature event, just because you could get a player winning for the first time. To me, that's always when people talk about the fall too, or they talk about the non-signature events and that these tournaments need to go away. You might get someone's first tour victory. Like you might get a Marcelo Rosso winning. He may win next year on the PGA Tour. Like you never know. And that story will be broadcast out to a bigger audience, and all the legwork that we did at Q School could come to fruition. So again, I got emotional too a little bit. Tears in my eyes and choked up, and that's the type of feeling I think that you find at those NCAAs, things like that, compared to even a major championship.
Yeah, I think it's also the fleeting quality of that competition and the moment that those players find themselves in, knowing like if they're a senior in college, it might be their last competitive round of golf at that level, depending on how the rest of their career shakes out. So yeah,
and like Matt Atkins, was going to give up the game before he got through second stage last week. And I feel like Kevin Price too at the tour does a great job of, now that he's on the social side of things, getting the emotion. Spencer Levine, I don't know if you guys saw that interview, but I mean, he was absolutely hot. But again, the relationships that were forged when no one cared about these guys from Kevin, he was able to get that and bring that to a larger audience. So that's another example of just how beneficial it is to be at these lower levels and show these players that you care about them before they have PGA Tour wins and majors and, TGL roster spots and all that.
Well, we're not going to do this. We could do the next hour on this sort of differentiation between the PGA Tour and the PGB Tour, PGC Tour, right? Like we've talked kind of in and around that a lot. And I think my primary qualm with all of it is like, from a commercial standpoint, we can't keep treating the Sanderson like it's the same as Bay Hill, right? And I think like nobody really disagrees with that, but in the restructuring of the PGA Tour that's going on right now, which you've reported on and kind of put some thoughts out there about, I'm fascinated to see like how Brian Rolapp, the new PGA Tour CEO, sort of like where he lands on this scarcity thing and like all these things that he's sort of preaching that he took from the NFL, which I think are fascinating and relevant and helpful. But what does that do to some of these stories? What does that do to like all this stuff that I think is like incredibly additive to the sport, but also not commercially viable if you're saying that everything's equal? Like I don't know how that's going to go. Do you have a sense of like how all that kind of shakes out over the next couple of years?
Well, you took the words kind of right out of my mouth. Like a smaller schedule, 20 event schedule, commercially, like it's not something that I think is realistic, even though it might be ideal from a competitive standpoint or a scarcity standpoint. From a financial standpoint, I don't know if that's going to work. But yeah, I threw a thought out there a few weeks ago, kind of wondering what golf would look like in the professional tennis model. And I know people scoffed at that, but I would argue that tennis might have the least parity of any of the major sports. So maybe that's the issue why tennis outside of the majors isn't as popular. But kind of the basic premise I had with this is, what if you could still have scarcity, but you could still have all these other events as well? And I don't know if you polled some of the non-stars in the PGA Tour, the middle class. I don't know if necessarily they're against scarcity because of scarcity, or they're just afraid that the pathways into these top tier events are going to be so closed off that once you get knocked out of them, it's going to be impossible to get back in. And with this tennis model, you essentially make it so that it's easy to get knocked out, but it's easy and quick to get back in too if you play well. And you have a universal points ranking. You have a ranking that's not average based, so you can't really game it. It takes your best performances. I think tennis is 19 or 20 if you play in the ATP finals. And then you can have exemptions based on what those rankings look like at the end of the season. And then you reward a player like Johnny Kiefer. Why should Johnny Kiefer have to be on the Korn Ferry Tour for the entirety of a year? And then at the same time, these players who are losing their cards, the players who are finishing outside the top 100 right now, they're getting knocked back to the Korn Ferry Tour, and it's going to be a year plus before they get back on the PGA Tour, and not even to the signature events. And then they have to work harder. So I think that's where the big qualm is that they're playing two separate tours. They're at a disadvantage. They're probably going to lose their card, and then it's going to take them forever to get back in on a tour that has purses that, if you're traveling and playing all the events from Bahamas to Latin America, it's expensive, and it's better now. Back then, it was a lot harder to break even on that. But yeah, I wonder what it could be if you had one ranking and you had different tiers of events and different point values, but events that if you play well, you're going to get in.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, you people should go check out this piece. And I wrote about it a little, or I commented on it in the newsletter and linked it in there. But it's essentially like the majors and the players are your top tier events, and then you drop down to whatever this is, 18 or 16 or 15, I think, of the 1,000 point events, and then you go to the 500, and this is sort of like, when I say commercial viability, I think the commercially not viable thing to do is to, again, keep pretending like all 40 of the PGA Tour events are the same, because they're not. And like, to continue pretending like that, I think is like a long-term bad strategy. Now, you could argue from a TV standpoint, it's great because it fills, airtime for CBS and NBC and ESPN, and the value of those PGA Tour events is pretty high in terms of like filling that airtime for those entities, so they pay a lot of money for them. The problem I had with your model, it has nothing to do with you. It's that it's not very simple. So it doesn't, because like, I follow tennis, and I'm like, I have no idea what it means to play a 1,000 event, a 500 event on the ATP. Like, I don't know what any of that means, even though I follow tennis like I mean, not closely, but I follow it. And I think this makes things more complicated, not less complicated, for Brian Roap and the PGA Tour. Do you agree?
Yeah, I kind of anticipated someone would ask this question at some point, but is it really more complicated than we have now when you think about, I mean, I was just at Q
maybe
School,
not.
and to try to figure out who has status, like if you were 126 to 150, or if you were 111 to 125, who has multiple winners exemptions that you could stack. It's not necessarily like, you don't need to know how the food is made. Like, you just need to know what's on the menu and how it tastes. And I think with a points ranking, you could see, this guy is ranked higher than this guy, so this guy is a better player right now, or this guy is in this event. You could put, color coded designations on guys who are exempt at a certain level. And then at the same time, I think the 1,500, 250, that kind of explains itself, and that this tournament more important than this tournament because you're awarding more points. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely not simple, but there are simple aspects of it, especially with one ranking, that you could easily figure out. And it kind of gets away from this whole kind of inside joke on the FedEx Cup early in the season, that this person's number one in the world when really they just won the Sony Open. So, and this is kind of a rolling ranking too, and it's going to be really hard for players like Rory and Scotty to fall, just like it is for Sinner and Medvedev and Alcaraz. So yeah, I mean, I think, and then one last thing that I think is a benefit too for this as well is, you may have a situation late in the season where someone like a Jordan Spieth needs, to make up some ground. He might be playing in the Simmons Bank Open in Nashville. And that could be, I mean, that might get you more sponsors at some of those lower levels as well. Some free cash. I mean, it might be like, well, there is the very slim possibility that you may have a guy like Jordan Spieth playing your tournament.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think the idea that it's no less complicated than things are now is true. I think I was starting from a baseline of like, how simple can we make this? And I think the simplest answer maybe doesn't fulfill some of the other qualifications that Roap or the PGA Tour want, which is that, hey, here's our 100 for the year. If you're not in the top X, 50, 75 at the end of the year, you're on the other tour, no matter what you've done over the last, in your career. That's simpler. I don't know that it's necessarily, I mean, I think what you're getting at is like, I really like, I'm curious about how Roap and Tiger and all those guys would view it from a simplicity standpoint. But you're right. Like, to figure out who's in the Cognizant right now is like, you need a physics degree to parse through like all the different exemptions and qualifications and all that stuff. And it's for the casual fan, they're like, just tell me when the Masters is.
Correct.
Okay, let's get to our main event. The reason that we brought you on, Brentley. I wanted to combine your worlds. So I wanted to take a look at both the sort of amateur kind of leading into the professional world, and also the sort of professional world that I cover and that you cover at the major championship events. So what we're going to do, and I also wanted this to serve as a little bit of a preview for 2026. So what we're going to do is we're going to take, we're going to have a draft. So you can pick anybody you want. The only rule is they have to at least be in college right now. And what we're trying to do with this draft is each of us is trying to create the best team we possibly can of players in terms of what they accomplished from this day forward. So what Brooks Koepka or Rory or any Jordan Spieth did in the past has no bearing on this draft. So you wouldn't take a guy like Dustin Johnson or Adam Scott or Justin Rose because they're all in their 40s. Or maybe you would, but you probably wouldn't. And what they're going to do from this point forward in terms of major championship wins and PGA Tour wins, even live wins, is probably growing pretty slim. You might take somebody that people haven't heard of that's in college right now because they're 19 years old and they've got 20 or 25 years of professional golf in front of them. So we're drafting based on professional accomplishment or achievement, but only starting from this day going forward. Does all that make sense?
Makes sense. How deep are we going? We go in 10?
10 rounds. We're going 10 rounds. So since you're the guest, since you haven't been on before, would you like the first pick or the second pick? We're doing snake draft. So if you have second pick, you get 2 selections.
I'm going to go with the first pick. I think it's pretty obvious. And the way I kind of formulated my rankings too is I just did major wins from here on out. And I started at 6, and it was hard to find anyone that I thought could maybe win 5. But the guy with 6 more, I feel it's pretty obvious. Scotty Scheffler should be the number 1 pick because with the way he's playing, he might win 2 a year for the
6
next
more
2 or 3 wins. Yeah,
you
6
think he
more
gets
majors.
to 10?
Yeah, I do.
Wow.
The rate that he's been on, he's trending. He's trending up still. He's not trending down. He's not staying stagnant. Like you could argue that he's gotten better every year. And I think the rate of a major and a half is probably easy to keep up or maintain the next 3 years at least.
Double-digit major championship wins since World War II. Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods. That's it.
But you can probably look at strokes gained stats, ball striking stats, and find a lot of groups where it's Scotty and Tiger and nobody else. So,
I mean, I'm with you. I think winning majors in this era is harder. It's more competitive. I believe. I mean, I definitely believe it's more competitive. I think on the higher end, you could argue like, are the top 5 different now than they were in 1970? Maybe not, but numbers 6 through 200, I think it's inarguable that they're better. And one of those guys is always going to have a hot Masters week or Open Championship week or whatever. So I do wonder about the win, like if he can keep up that clip. I think one thing that got pointed out on the Fried Egg podcast a couple weeks ago is he's winning in like routes. Like they're not close. Like Portrush was not close. Even the PGA Championship, it kind of got close, but then it was, lights out on the back 9. So I think that, that part is really interesting. Where do you land on him because you've covered him for a long time, where do you land on the idea that he doesn't, like, obviously I've talked about this a lot, but golf is not his kind of end game. It doesn't necessarily fulfill him or satisfy him. Where do you land on him potentially walking away or retiring early, or maybe not playing into his 40s or 50s like some of these other guys?
I've always felt like that was maybe something that he just says to get him in the right frame of mind, because if you go back to him in college, like he was so competitive that, I mean, there was a story about how he got into it with Bo Hostler when they kind of misidentified a ball and Scotty ended up hitting the wrong ball and he runs to the green and grabs the ball and then runs back and throws it at Bo's feet. I mean, this guy is super competitive. We've seen that with board games, things like that. So I think the golf is not everything. I think he believes it, but I also I don't think it's this sort of, I mean, what do you call it? Like this sort of nihilistic approach. Like I don't really care. Yeah. I think it's a mechanism that he uses and he talks through to kind of keep him from caring too much, and it kind of brings him back down to a state where he could still get the most out of that competitiveness, but it's not overwhelming and overbearing. Because I mean, remember when Scotty came out on the PGA Tour? Like, he finished second a lot. He couldn't break through. The question was like, can he win? And then he went in Phoenix, and then the floodgates open. He was that way in high school too. That was the first story I ever wrote about him. Was he was second in all these AJGA events, and then boom, he wins the U.S. Junior. And the kind of a parallel there is, I think, the first kind of brush with death and how precious life is. He had a friend named James Reagan who played at Rice, who was one of Scotty's best friends. They played some member guests together, super close. And he was going through cancer at the time. He later ended up passing away, but that was the story of that week at Martis Camp. And I don't know. I think it brought Scotty again down from a level from being over competitive to being just mentally like elite.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you about he's sociopathically competitive. And I think that, it's funny to hear guys, even Rory has said like, yeah, I might not play in my 40s or whatever. And it's like, I don't know, like what else are you going to do? And not in like those guys always could have a lot going on, but they're like sickos and this is like what they want to do. So I don't necessarily buy into the, he might walk away when he's 33. Maybe he will, but
something pretty earth-shattering would have to happen in his life, I think, for him to walk away. And
yeah,
I don't see that happening.
Here's a great stat for you, by the way. According to Data Golf, last 2 years, in terms of strokes gained ball striking, Scotty is a stroke better than anyone else in the world. That's 170 rounds, 42 events. He's at 2.43 strokes gained ball striking, and the next best is Rory at 1.43, which is just staggering.
He also hasn't lost strokes on approach since like the 2024 BMW, and that was at altitude too.
He's so much better than everybody else. It doesn't. The thing that I always tell people is like, just talking to friends or people that are casually into golf is like, dude, you don't understand how good Corey Connors is at golf, which means you don't really understand how much, and Scotty's so much better than him. So you have no sort of context for how good Scotty is, right? Like Scotty's like standard deviations better than Corey Connors, and Corey Connors is like the best player you've ever seen in your life.
Do you think strokes gain approach and strokes gain around the greens, do you think that's the most lethal combination in golf? Compared to driving and approach, or like you can only pick two, driving, putting. There's a lot of driver putters. I call it the Taylor Montgomery model, but maybe I should pick a little bit more high profile guy to name it after.
Well, I think I think the two guys that I look at, I could be talked into that, because strokes gained around the green is less about the luck that can come and go with putting and more about how good are your hands. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think you look at, I don't know, I would throw lag putting in there in terms of like the importance of it. I mean, that was always like Tiger's probably the best lag putter of all time. And that's what you see at majors that you have to be good at to win some of these majors is lag putting, leaving yourself 2 feet instead of 5, to save 3, 4, 5, 6 strokes over the course of a major championship. So we don't have the amount of detail needed probably in some of these like high level strokes gain numbers to get down into like lag putting and all that stuff. But yeah, I think around the green plus approach. I mean, I think about Rahm. His hands are unbelievable. He's always good around the green. Rory's kind of underrated around the green, but Scotty's right there. I mean, he's 6th in the last 2 years in terms of strokes gained around the green, which is just a joke for somebody that's that good with his ball striking.
That may have been his best skill, like over the course of his life, to be honest with you too, his short game.
Like going back to high school?
Yeah, I mean, Brad Dahlke was on the 5 Clubs show last week, and Brad obviously good now, but he played with Scotty a bunch Brad was an elite junior. He's probably better than Scotty Scheffler when he was 15, 16. And that was what he talked about, like just incredible short game. Because Scotty was a small guy too. I mean, he didn't shoot up until end of high school, really.
Yeah.
And now he's massive.
It's pretty wild. I remember JT talking about this at some point, maybe a No Laying Up interview, but just how when you go to a major championship and you have the confidence that you can get up and down from anywhere, it's so freeing. Because if you don't have that confidence, like if you're not confident in your short game or it's kind of struggling or whatever, then it makes you feel like you have to hit every approach shot perfectly. And that's a hard thing. I mean, just mentally, that's a hard thing to do at major championships. So I always find that, I always find that interesting. Okay, we spent enough time on the number one pick. Jason, I'm going to let you take over the hosting of this draft here.
I was just reading some Scotty Scheffler quotes from his junior Am win, and after he won, he said about where he was going to hang his gold medal. I hope I don't lose it. So that's that kind of shows like his level-headedness after winning that event.
Gosh, I still remember that.
You've got a first and second pick.
Gosh, there's so many different directions to go here. I'm going to take Victor Hovland, who I believe is 26. You can check me on that, Jason. I believe he's 26.
28. Victor's 28.
Okay, that's a little older than I wanted, but it's okay. I'm going to take Ludwig as well. I thought about going Xander. I actually thought about going Rory because I think Rory's got 7 years left of being, I mean, I don't know that he's going to be top 15 for all 7 years, but he's going to be pretty good for the next 7 years. But Ludwig and Hovland are both in that. They're both younger than Scotty. I think they both still have, I mean, such a big part of this for me, Brentley, is like, do you have the hunger and the desire and part of it is game. Obviously, you have to be incredibly gifted, but do you have, like, how many times have we seen guys get to the top and then kind of fall off a little bit? It happens. I mean, we even saw it with Rory this year, who's been as consistent as you can be at the top of the world. And so I want to get guys that are young, but also like still like haven't reached the mountaintop yet. So you can get some of that, some of those majors or wins or whatever while they're still on the way up. Because I think once you get up there, then it gets really, I mean, like if Victor Hovland is still in the top 20 at age 40, like that's crazy. Like that's impressive to me to do that, like the DJ or the Rory, where they've been up there for that amount of time. So I want guys that are kind of still on their way up right now.
I had Ludwig as the only other guy that I thought may win like four or five more majors, from this point on. I know I say more, he doesn't have any, but someone who could get to that number. And I always think about a quote that Ryan Hybl, who's the head coach at Oklahoma, who's probably considered, along with Mike Small, to be like two of the best coaches in college golf, and he called
besides
Ludwig.
Alan Bratton.
Besides, and you know what? Alan's right up there too as well, and the proof is in the pudding with that, with all the success that he's had as a player and a coach. But no, Hybl back in college called Ludwig Megatron, and it's just always stuck with me, and it's just like the perfect nickname or perfect description. And now that he's hitting the irons better, like his approach play, you go back to maybe right before the U.S. Open, it's been really good. Major record this year toward the end was a little concerning, but I would have picked him second if I went second.
Yeah, I think his major record overall outside the Masters is
it's great.
At the Masters it's great, but outside the Masters, it's not. I mean, so he's played in 8 majors, second at the Masters, 7th at the Masters. He only has one other top 20, and that was a T12 at Pinehurst. When I think he was close to the lead going into the third round there. So that's interesting. But I mean, it would be hard to pick somebody other than Scotty who's had a better record over the last, 2 years at Augusta National, which is, a quarter of the majors every year. So, I'm not like all the way in on Ludwig, but he's still at an age where I think it's easy to he just turned 26. And and he's still at an age where it's easy to envision the next 10 years being pretty extraordinary.
So I'm going to hedge a little bit with this. I'm going to take John. No. Spieth would be the opposite end of the hedge, I think, just because of the health concerns and things of that nature. Plus, I would hate for him not to be on your team at some point during this draft.
Thank you.
But I'm going to go with Jon Rahm and Jackson Koiven. Rahm's pretty self-explanatory. He's going to be in at least, 2 of the majors for the next 7 or 8 years or something like that. Or like maybe 5 or 6 years, obviously Masters for the rest of his life. But again, just a talent that even going back to college, he was, when you talk about can't miss, sometimes we use that pretty loosely nowadays, but he was legitimately can't miss. And it was crazy that he spent 4 years in college because he could have came out after his freshman or sophomore year and been just as good as he was when he came out as a senior, I think. But Koiven's probably the best prospect right now, someone who's not yet on the PGA Tour. And a cool quote about him is from Buddy Alexander, who was a longtime coach of the Florida Gators and has coached some of the best putters who have ever played on the PGA Tour, Brian Gay certainly being one of them. But he was the assistant at Auburn, or he's been the volunteer assistant in recent years. And he said Koiven's the best putter he's ever seen at that age, and that includes Brian Gay. And then when you combine it with really great wedge player, which you don't see a lot of at that age, that's usually the skill that guys learn once they get on tour. You combine that with that, he's filled out, he's got length, he hits the irons well, long irons well. The only thing he's got to get better at, I think, is probably bunker play and a little bit of short game. But he's probably the guy who, if you're looking for the next Scotty, he might be it. I mean, not at that level, but someone who could be world number one and winning multiple majors a year.
Yeah, I think the headline is Brentley thinks Koiven is the next Scotty. What?
It'll go nuclear and get picked up here
for sure. Who's his comp, right? Because I watch him, and obviously he's impressive. He had an end to the PGA. I mean, he was kind of thriving at a time when people were over the PGA Tour and onto football. And he had a few tournaments there where it was like, is this guy, should he be on the Ryder Cup team, on the U.S. Ryder Cup team? That's how good he was playing at the PGA Tour level. But you watch him, and he's not, you mentioned Megatron for Ludwig earlier. That's not what I think when I watch him. He's not that type of dynamic, just monster where it's just, just crushing off the tee, hitting insane long iron shots like Rory or Ludwig or Hovland or somebody like that. Like, who's his comp at the PGA Tour level?
I mean, there's probably someone more specific who's not quite at the level, but if you're just maybe limiting it to major winners or top 10 players in the world, I think it's probably Xander. I think he's probably closer to Xander than he is to anybody else, just because he doesn't have the short game of a Scotty or a Rahm or a Rory. But yeah, I think Xander is probably the closest, just among maybe a Xander, maybe a Hovland as well. But I think he drives it a little bit better than Vic has drove it, or at least more consistent. So, but yeah, probably X.
Yeah, the Rahm thing is interesting. I definitely had him in that sort of top tier. My only, I think, if I had to pick somebody who's going to bounce back up, rebound next year and really be competitive at the top with Scotty and Rory, it would be Rahm. He is 31. I worry a little bit about the irrelevancy, I guess, of some of the live stuff. He's been, I don't know, he's had a weird couple of major years. I do think he's generationally good though. And, but he's also 5 years older than Ludwig and 4 years older than Hovland, or I guess 3 years older than Hovland. But yeah, I think that's a great pick, and I definitely considered him for one of those first two.
I thought you were going to say irritability instead of irrelevancy.
Also very irritable. Speaking of, I'm going to go with Xander for my, what pick is this, Jason?
Your third pick.
Third pick, Xander Schauffele. Believe he's 32. But he's on. I mean, he had a weird 2025. I feel like I'm getting some value here actually, because I think if we did this after 2024, he would have been one of our first 2 picks, maybe at age 29 or 30, coming off 2 majors. I think he's got he's not. Some of these guys, they get to the top and you're like, yeah, you kind of just did one thing better than everybody else. And if that fails, this is the Spieth story, right? If that fails, then we got some problems. And that's just not the case with him. Like, he's so consistently good in every area that he's going to be competitive if he's healthy for 3 more years, 5 more years, 7 more years at the top of the world. I think that he, the thing that he maybe lacked before was, whether you want to call it confidence or self-belief or, sort of the mental aspect. And now that he's won, 2 major championships, like, I don't know that that's even a question anymore. So I am happy to have the rest of Xander's career. I think he could win, 2 or 3 more majors. I think you start throwing around 4 or 5 and it's like, I mean, how many people are even playing that have won 4 or 5? I mean, how many guys did you have on your list that you're like, they could win 4, like from this day forward, they could win 4 major championships?
2.
Scotty and
Ludwig.
Okay.
And then I had Rom and a player who I'm hoping to pick at some point at 3, and then everyone else was 2 or 1.
A player I'm hoping to pick at some point.
I think I put Koivu at 4, but that's ultra aggressive.
That's incredibly.
I mean, prisoner meets moment.
Well, I think coming out of college, if somebody we just throw and this is my favorite thing about majors is there's only 40 of them over the next 10 years. It's not like you could win, because with PGA Tour events, you're like, I don't know, he could win. There's so many of them that it almost loses a little bit of meaning, I guess, because it's like, well, which ones did you win, or how good, what was the field or whatever. And with majors, it's like there's only 40 over the next 10 years. And we start handing out 5 here and 7 there, and you're like, well, I mean, you've only got 6 guys winning majors. Like, that's not going to happen. So I just think they're the most meaningful, the most interesting, and maybe the best way to determine who the best players are going to be.
The only smaller list than maybe the list of major champions over the next 10 years is players who have won tournaments at Firestone Country Club in Memphis. So, which doesn't really exist except on the internet.
For sure. Gosh, I don't know what to do here. There's so many young guys that you could go with. Okay, I'm going to do this because I think he's shown that he can do it. And I don't know how many years he has left at this level, but he's been at the level for a while and he's gotten better, which I think is incredibly impressive.
Are you taking Phil?
No, I'm not.
I was kind of thinking that too, Jason, to be honest.
He's got a couple years left.
I'm taking Bryson.
Smart. I mean, for a guy who's going to live to 130 years old, you're going to get a lot of run at him.
That's true. That's a good point. Maybe he plays to 50 instead of 45.
I had Bryson at 3 more. I was going to pick him if you didn't.
Was that the one you were looking at picking in the future?
He just does something so much better than everyone else, it seems. Like when you combine just the length and the skill of the driver.
Do you think that out of all the players that you've named, he's the most volatile? Because I think everyone you've named is pretty consistent in terms of steady strategy and swing mechanics.
Victor's volatile.
Yeah, Victor.
Victor's more volatile than Bryson, I think.
Yeah, which I think is, I think part of what I talked about this with LKD, and I thought it was such a great point by him. He talked about, okay, how do you engage the game? Because that's going to be when you play your best. So for Rory, it might be being a showman. For Spieth, it might be being a lunatic. For Scotty, it's, okay, how can I be as consistent as possible? For Bryson, it's like doing YouTube. For Victor, I honestly think if he didn't tinker, that he would be a worse player. which sounds crazy. Like, that sounds stupid because you're like, dude, if you just didn't tinker, you would have won 2 majors by now. But I think it's what engages his brain and his emotions with the game in such a way that's made him the player that he is. So maybe not. Maybe I'm a moron, and if Victor didn't tinker, he'd be a 3-time major champion. But I do think that there's a world in which him tinkering is actually what brings about his best golf.
Yep. The Kobe quote about not thinking about winning or losing, but thinking about how to just like figure it out, pretty much.
Yeah. How to get 1% better. So I've got Victor, Ludwig, Xander, and Bryson.
Bryson's going to finish in the top 5 of the next like 10 PGAs too. So
yeah.
Let's see. All right, it's 2 for me. I really wanted to pair Bryson and another maybe similar type player, and that's Aldrich Potgieter.
I had him on my list.
Maybe a little too soon to pick him, but I definitely want him on my team because you think about the skill and something that he does better than anybody. Definitely concerned about the short game, but if he could just get a little better there, or I mean that's been what we've saying about Victor for years now too. But if he could just get better there, mature a little bit. I mean the guy's still what is he like 20 years old, 21 years old right now?
I believe he's 20.
Yeah, he's 21.
So again, like he's got to mature a little bit. I think a more experienced caddy to get kind of like a Ted Scott type with him could do wonders as well. But I mean, the guy just hits it so dang far, and who knows what this rollback's going to bring? Toward I guess what that would be his. It would hit about when he's like
23, 4.
Yeah, like 25, 26 maybe. Kind of right in the heart of when he should be reaching the prime of his career. Maybe that helps him out just because he can. I feel like there's still an extra year or two. So Aldrich for sure. And then, gosh, I think it's important just to take risks because it's not like we're cutting this off at 2040. I mean, this is the entirety of these guys' careers. I'm going to go with Luke Clanton. I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know why we haven't kept talking about Luke Clanton. I mean, yes, it's been an adjustment, but I mean, Justin Rose had a huge adjustment on the PGA Tour. Like all these players have had huge adjustments and ended up being major champions. I think Luke Clanton, he could be a top 10 driver, top 10 approach, top 10 putter at times too on the tour over the course of his career. So, and I think just has the foundation too of growing up and not growing up at a country club and having to fight for stuff and. I don't know. I think he's got maybe a bigger will, bigger heart than a lot of these young kids, and I want him on my team as well.
I think it's interesting. He had such a great 2024. I mean, you look at what he did from basically he won a bunch in the early part of that or middle part of that college season. Finished T2 at the NCAAs, and then kind of tore it up on the PGA Tour. I mean, he had 1, 2, 3, 4 top 10s, including a T2 at the RSM over the course of the PGA Tour season.
He had a T11 in there as well.
Second at the John Deere, youngest player since Jordan Spieth to finish runner-up.
Yeah, T10 at the Rocket Mortgage is probably what you're referencing,
yeah,
Brentley.
Okay.
And then in 2025, he wins 3 times again or 4 times in college golf, has a pretty good start even on like the PGA Tour events that he's playing in. He had a couple top 20s at the Cognizant, the beloved Cognizant, and the Farmers, and then turns pro and just nothing. I mean, and I do wonder, is that a, I mean, he doesn't even have a top 25 in about 12 events. You think that's mental? Like just putting the pressure of like, oh, now I'm a pro, so I have to prove it. I have to win. I have to do this. Like, how much of that is mental and how much of it is something else?
Well, it's probably a little mechanical too, because you get in a different rhythm. I mean, remember these college kids know one way, and then when you turn pro, it's a completely different lifestyle. It's a completely different rhythm week to week. Just when you're at home, he's not. I mean, he was a big team guy too. He would talk about Tyler Weaver, who's still on the team. Tyler dragging him to the gym and dragging him to the ice baths, and It's just a really kind of tight knit team, and I think Luke really thrived in that environment. Now you could argue, well, he didn't have the team with him when he was playing on the PGA Tour last year, but he still was going back to Tallahassee and still being in that team room. I think maybe there's a little bit of loneliness there, and then, like you said, just a little bit of putting too much pressure on himself. He has not putted well. His short game, I don't think, has ever been necessarily super great. But again, he's only 22, 23 years old, maybe 22. So he's got plenty of time to turn it around. Yeah. And I look for guys who just make a different sound, who you look at it and you're like, wow, that guy's just got a little bit different edge to him, as opposed to maybe these cookie cutter tour pros who ball strike it well, but you just don't, it doesn't really impress you.
What do you mean by doesn't really impress you? Or why do you say that? Just because it's like built in a lab guys?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like, I compare it to like a box of Kraft macaroni and cheese. Like it's fine, like it's good, like it's reliable, but it's not, going
Special.
to Nobu or something, right? And I feel like Clanton's more in like the Nobu type realm than like a Kraft, box of Kraft mac and cheese.
Yeah, I like that.
That's probably the first reference you've ever had.
Great comp.
As someone with a 3-year-old, we eat a lot of that, unfortunately.
For sure. Okay. Oh gosh. I keep, like, I knew this would happen. Like, I knew you would take all young guys and I would take all the older guys because they've proven it, and I don't have as much depth of knowledge about the younger guys that you do. Okay. I'm going to go with Hideki Matsuyama. Big hero win a couple weeks ago. He's only 33 years old. It feels like he's 53 because he's been in our lives for, most of the last decade. I think Hideki's got another major win in him. I really do. He's always super competitive at the majors. He's so consistent. I mean, he's not at the same level of consistency as DJ or Rory, but he's not that far behind. I mean, if you look at his strokes gained numbers, his world ranking over the last 10 years, it's just automatic every single year. Struggled off the tee this year, but other than that, his approach numbers are the same. His short game numbers are the same. He's so consistent. And what that's meant for the last 10 years is a lot of PGA Tour wins, a lot of competition at majors, and a Masters win. So I'm going to take Hideki there. And then I'm going to go with Nick Dunlap. I'm scared that you're going to take him also. Obviously, the last, year and a half have been not good from any standpoint, but I don't think you get to where he got to without being pretty special. And he's 21. It's sort of he's younger than Luke Clanton, which is crazy, right? And it's a little bit of what the theory that you were proposing about Clanton of like, hey, I know it wasn't good for this long this long period of time, but that's not that abnormal even for guys that we would consider superstars. So he's got a ton of runway, had some bright spots, I think, at the end of the 2025 year. And the driving is really horrific at times, but I'm betting that he figures that out over the next, he's 7 years younger than Victor Hovland, who's still considered, I think, decently young on the PGA Tour. So yeah, a lot of time to figure it out.
The only thing that worries me about Dunlap is he's had a wrist issue that's sort of plagued him, and I think is still bothering him ever since really going back to high school, going into college. That would be my only concern, is just maybe the health. And as you said, the driver, but, definitely someone who, can definitely spark and, pop a major or two. I'm going to hedge again. That might be the theme closing out this draft, but I'm going to go with JT. Probably the closest thing to a Xander, how you were talking about earlier, where for the most part, there's not a skill that you could really see being a liability for any pro-length period of time. And he's gone through his big slump. There was that period for probably about 1.5 to 2 years there where he probably would not have been picked in a draft like this. But I don't know. A few guys I think have all the tools that JT has, and that's not even talking about what's in the bag, but I think it's just it's the fire to compete, it's the competitiveness, it's the golf IQ. So he's only 32 too, so I could see 2 or 3 more majors out of JT as well. And then we're gonna go younger. Gosh, I'm gonna save this guy because I don't know if you're gonna pick him. I'm gonna go young. I'm gonna say Ben James. And we've already picked 3 players in the high school class of 2022, I believe. It's either 21 or 22, but it's basically Ben James, Dunlap, Luke Clanton, and then Caleb Surratt as well. I mean, that has a potential, if we're looking back 10 years from now, that has the potential to be really just as good as that 2011 class with Spieth and JT and Xander and Ollie and those guys. So, Ben James would be my guy. The putter's a concern. Probably doesn't have the inner dog in him, and I hate to use that word, but I think it probably doesn't have as much of that as a Clanton or a Dunlap or a Koiven, but he's proven what he could do, and he's going to get on the PGA Tour too right away and finish number 1 in that PGA Tour U, which I was thinking about this too, and I definitely wanted to bring this up. It's a huge difference right now between, and we'll take the accelerated program out of it. That's obviously going to be your elite players like Koiven and Clanton and those guys, but just the regular PGA Tour U for the seniors. If you finish number 1, you get a season and a half on the PGA Tour. Like fully exempt. Yeah. If you finish second, you get Korn Ferry for the rest of that summer, and then you go to final stage at Q School. And so at the earliest, you're getting on tour, unless you pop and win on a sponsor exemption. The earliest you're getting on tour a year and a half after the guy who is number 1 in your PGA Tour U class. And that's a huge difference. And so if Ben James can get that, he could be a guy who wins pretty early and is a top 10 player in the world before you know it.
Can you imagine if there was only one player that got to go to the NBA from the NBA draft?
I think Brian Scalabrine would have played a lot more years in the NBA. He would have had those guys hanging on.
What a weird. I know the percentage is different because there's 400 NBA players and only 150 or 200 PGA Tour, but it's not. I mean, okay, so what if there was only 2 or 3 guys that got to go to the NBA? It's outrageous. Okay, so you say JT and Ben James. Ben James definitely on my list. I've got one other am on my list that I hope you don't take, but I'm gonna go with Rory. I can't believe he lasted this long. He will be 37 in May, which is not. I mean, God, I've got all the freaking old guys here. He's not young, but again, the consistency. Hideki's consistency, Xander's consistency, Rory's consistency as a top 15. I mean, he hasn't been out of the top 15 in the world since like 2009, which is insane. And I think that he does care about legacy a lot. He wants to win at St. Andrews, and whenever they're going there, 27. He wants to win a U.S. Open at Pebble. I mean, he's on the record about these things, and I think that he is so good and will be driven enough, post Grand Slam. It was that weird 4 or 5 months after the Grand Slam that he was just kind of out of it. I don't think that's going to be the case over the next 5 years. And I think he will at least be competitive at more majors, will obviously win more PGA Tour events. And I mean, there's a world in which he, from this point forward, has a better career than somebody like Jackson Koiven or Luke Clanton or certainly Nick Dunlap at even though they have 15 years to catch up to to do anything that he's going to do. They have such a longer runway, but he's that good. And I'm interested to see how it goes over the next 5 or 6 years.
I was looking up some stats too. You mentioned going to be 37 soon. Do you know how many golfers have won majors in their 40s or later?
How many golfers have won majors in their 40s or later? I think it's like 5 or 6.
39.
No.
Well, so 39 wins by some of that is repeat. And it's only been done 7 times since 2000 or later. And most of that is your old Tom Morris's, your Open Championships back in the day.
Okay. So
but
that's...
but only 7 guys have won multiple majors in their 40s. Of course, old Tom with 4. But golf is a much different game than it was when he was hitting it around.
So the ones that I can think of, yeah, that makes sense, because there's been a bunch of like Open Championship winners, even not a bunch, but there's been some recently, the last 30 or 40 years that have been in their 40s. Phil obviously is one in his 40s. Tiger, was Darren Clark in his 40s when he won the Open?
Yep, Darren Clark, Ernie, Henrik.
Henrik was in his 40s. I was thinking he was late 30s.
And VJ. Yeah, Henrik was 40 when he won in 2016.
Okay. Julius Boros, he was like the oldest major winner for
he's one of the multiple
while.
guys. Hogan won 3 after age 40. Nicholas was 3. Boros 2. Amira 2. Phil 2. Harry Vardon 2. That's it.
How many since, just ballpark me, how many since World War II?
I don't know about different, but total guys who were 40 or when they won a major, you're looking at high 20s, 28, 29 players since.
So even that is far more than I thought. Okay, my next pick. What round is this, Jason? What are we in?
You're in the 8th round.
I'll go with Akshay.
There we go.
23 years old. He's got, the thing that impresses me, Brentley, about Akshay is he's got a little bit of that Matt Fitzpatrick of like, okay, he started out at 19. He was okay. Like he wasn't that good. Every year he's gotten better. And if that continues to compound, and all of a sudden when you're 28, you're a star on the PGA Tour. And I think that having that professional experience, is he a JT or a Spieth where it's like, this is crazy at 21 or 22? No, but to build up to that is the far more historically like trodden path for people, is to build up to it. It doesn't, the outliers are the ones that are that good at 21 or 22. And so I think he's got a long way to go in terms of how much better he's going to get. And I'm betting that over the next 5, 6, 7 years, he becomes pretty freaking good on the PGA Tour.
I'm shocked at how poorly he has chipped the ball as a pro.
I love that that's your response to my whole soliloquy about Akshay Bhatia's future, and you're like, he can't chip.
I wouldn't say he can't chip, and he has the potential to be one of those well-rounded players like we talked about. But yeah, going back to junior golf, I remember doing an instruction shoot with another player, and I was asking him, like, all right, who's the best driver in junior golf right now? All right, who's the best iron player? And Akshay was the response for like 3 of the 4. Like best putter, best short game, best iron player. Akshay.
The last 2 years, Akshay and Cam Young have had the same ball striking numbers.
Well, I'm glad you said Cam Young, because I was thinking I think out of principle I shouldn't pick Cam Young. He's been kind of the popular pick amongst these types of things the last few months across other companies, other platforms. So I might not pick them or pick him out of principle. All right, keeping with the theme, I'm gonna go with Colin Morikawa.
Okay.
You can't teach that kind of ball striking, and it's really never left him. I mean, it's hard. I always thought it was funny when there was that period. Remember that period like a year or 2 ago when he couldn't hit a fade and he was hitting a draw or something, and he was frustrated. And I mean, he was still one of the best approach players in golf. It was just we were just getting so caught up on he can't hit the cut right now. The putter's a concern, but he's still fairly young. He's been so consistent over the course of his career still, even going back to college. top 5 machine in college. He had something like 33 top 5s at Cal, which is insane.
It feels like he's gotten lapped a little bit. Like I look back at like 2021 feels like a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, because that was St. George's, right? So
yeah.
And what has he done in the major championship since?
He's in the final round of Scotty in 2024 at the Masters.
And I think the Masters could be a tournament that he picks off in the next couple of years too. Because I've always been of the theory that you don't necessarily need to be a great putter per se, like just in terms of getting the ball in the hole and making a lot of putts at Augusta. You just have to have great speed and like you go back to lag putting like you were talking about earlier. You just have to have good speed for the week and not give yourself a ton of 3 putts and then hit it close and make those putts. Now, faster greens, undulating greens, like no one's making putts. Denny McCarthy's not making a lot of putts. So I feel like the what Augusta asks of you is not really to make a lot of putts. So maybe he could pick one of those off. And I mean, major record, I just looked it up too. I mean, it's
really good. So since he won,
he's kind of there. He's kind of there a lot.
Yeah, the 2021 Open. The next year he was 5th at the Masters. So I'll just go through. He's played like 20 majors since then. 5th at the Masters, T55, PGA, T5, cut, T10, T26, T14, cut, T3, T4, T14, T16, T14, T50, T23, and then miscut at the 2025 Open. This year was kind of weird. Like he didn't have a great year, but he's been very consistent. And even at major championships where it seems like it feels anyway, like he's getting just kind of vaporized by some of these other guys, he's still had some good finishes. And he's still young. He's 28. I mean, I just went to the Data Golf has this great kind of career Data Golf points list. And there's only 6 guys on there that are under 30. And he's one of them. Hovland's one, Scheffler's one. And then you got Joaquin Niemann, Sung J M, and Sam Burns are all on there in terms of kind of career achievements to this point. Those are the only guys on there under 30. So, yeah, it's been impressive.
And then this is my 9th pick, I believe, Jason.
Yep, that's right.
Okay, so I always wanted to save 10 for someone really out of left field, but I'll go a little bit safer for this one, and that's Pearson Coody. Probably goes against what I was talking about with Nick Dunlap, like injury concerns. Like Pearson has been banged up and hits a ton of balls. He had the very similar hamate bone injury that Bryson had a couple years ago. There was maybe the most ridiculous injury in the history of golf is him and Parker, who are twins, when they were at Texas their senior year. If you've ever been to Texas, under the football stadium is the weight room where a lot of the athletes work out. Football doesn't work out in there, but this is the one where all the other athletes work out.
Is this a normal sport moment?
This is an absolute normal sport moment. This might have been, this could be like a top 10 normal sport moment. So there's a turf little area downstairs. And keep in mind, we're underground, there's no windows, and this is where you're doing lunges, things of that nature. Now, normally the team will end a workout doing a relay race, but normally that's outside on the football field, but it was cold, it was rainy, they were inside for whatever reason. And the walls are pure block, pure concrete. And they're doing this relay race, and it's probably about a 40-yard little turf area. And the Coody twins are the anchors. Comes down, they're going full speed. They don't want to lose to each other. I mean, that's been the case their whole lives. And they blow through the finish line, and they both just crash into this brick, not brick, but block wall. Full concrete, full speed. They both break I think it was their left or right elbow. Same exact injury.
At the exact same time.
At the exact same time. Parker returned a little bit earlier than Pearson, but they were back by like early March.
That's outrageous.
Early March, mid-March. And then they ended up winning the national title that year. So
also, for all the investment in like college sports as a big business, like you can't figure out the concrete wall that people are running into.
Well, see, now there's padding on the wall, like you would have at a LA Fitness and a basketball gym under the hoop.
Yeah,
they've added that since. So the like the blue wall at Chevron or ANA, they now have the the burnt orange cootie wall to protect their athletes from harm.
Cootie wall.
That's a brilliant name. But yeah, getting back more on the serious side, Pearson last year. I should have actually looked this up for sure, but he didn't play enough rounds on the PGA Tour. He split time. I think he had over 15. He was like the first player in over 20 or 25 years to play at least 15 events on both tours, PGA Tour and Korn Ferry Tour. But if he had enough rounds to be eligible, his strokes getting off the tee would have been better than Rory.
Mm.
So he's a guy who that's his elite skill. Like I said, he hits a ton of balls. He's a good ball striker. He can get hot with the putter. Short game's not a super liability. I don't know. I mean, it would seem like maybe the luxury of picking someone like him for this draft and projecting a great career maybe has passed him by. But like I said, he's been hurt. Like he's been up on tour once and then inconsistency. But he's a player who might miss a ton of cuts, but he also might go and win some huge tournaments. And there's a lot of players like that. Like Michael Brennan's going to be one of those players too. I think he's kind of the flavor of the month right now, Brennan, but he's going to be like, people are going to realize how inconsistent. He's great when he's great. But if, plays like he did in college and as an amateur, there's going to be some times where he misses some cuts, and Pearson's kind of the same way.
Yeah. And Pearson Cootie's 26 years old, so about the same age as Ludwig. The thing that I was looking at both of them, I think the thing that concerns me specifically about him is his approach play is not good. And approach play, as we all know, is a harbinger of how good you're going to be on the PGA Tour, and so I'm interested to see. Now, we've seen that improve in guys. Sam Burns comes to mind as somebody that was a great driver, good putter, really good putter, and then his approach play got better. And that's unusual though. Like, that doesn't happen very often. So I'm interested to see how that goes for Pearson Cootie over the next several years.
Well, so it's interesting because his approach numbers, and you understand this a lot better than I do, Kyle, too. But he was 94th on tour in stroke gained approach on this season. But he was 4th in greens and regulation.
Mm.
So he's still hitting greens. And probably a better long iron player too. I mean, he's 28th in terms of proximity from outside of 200 yards. So he's a guy who's going to eagle a lot of par fives, easily birdie a lot of par fives, and maybe it's just the fact that he's probably a little bit weaker as you get into some of those shorter clubs. Like your approaches from like 100 to 150 is not particularly good.
Which, to be fair, is
where he's going to be hitting from a lot, for sure.
Yeah, but also like where it's the easiest to improve, right? Like it's very difficult to teach speed, to teach, 3-iron proximity, 4-iron proximity. It's a lot easier to figure out your wedges. So yeah, it's a good pick. I like it. I'm going to take, so I've got my last two here. I hate my team. I don't know why I took Dunlap. I don't know why I didn't take Rahm. I hate all of it. But so I'm going to list the guys that I'm considered, but I'm not going to take. Jordan Spieth, Tommy Fleetwood, Matt Wolff, Ben Griffin, Joaquin Niemann, Nikolai Højgaard, Matt Fitzpatrick, Rasmus Njergaard Peterson, Neil Shipley, Tom McKibben, and Gordon Sargent, who I'm desperate to take, but I can't in good conscience take. I'm going to go with Cam Young, who's still 28. He looks like he's 48, but he's somehow 28. And then also, just because I want to, Preston Stout, last pick.
Keeping it in the theme of your Cowboys. Stout, I believe it was the shotgun starts draft. Andy picked Preston Stout fairly early, like the second or third. I like that. He's a guy who I wrote about this when he won the Big 12s earlier this year. It was golf's version of the Jordan Flu game. He showed up and he was throwing up. He got to the course in the morning and fell asleep at his locker. He hadn't slept all night, and then he falls asleep at his locker. I don't know if he almost missed his tee time, but for the sake of the story, we could say almost misses his tee time. Couldn't keep any food down. Was chugging a bottle of Pepto-Bismol, and then goes out and wins the Big 12s at Southern Hills, a major championship layout.
Back-to-back Big 12.
And 2 for 2 because he's only a junior right now.
Yeah, he's actually from where I live in Dallas, Richardson. Yeah. Yeah, he's been awesome, and you watch him and it's just I mean, to be fair, like I thought this about Matt Wolff in college. I was like, man, that guy's electric. Like he is electric as a entertainer, as a ball striker, as just a person, as an interview. He was just it was so clear to me that he was going to be better than Morikawa and Hovland, and obviously that has not gone that way. So who knows? It's so hard to tell when you're 2021, but man, he's pretty electric, and he's going to be. I guess he won't be. When is Koivu turning pro?
So it's still kind of up for debate, but I would say he would have to turn pro a year early and turn pro next summer, but he has the option to defer until the following summer.
Will Koivu, James, and Stout all turn pro at the same time?
No. Well, James will for sure be this year. Stout, you're looking at 2 more years down the line. He's only a junior, and then Koivu's obviously a junior. So there's potential either Koivu's going to be with James or Koivu's going to be with Stout.
Okay, so Stout will not turn pro in 2026.
Not unless something crazy happens.
So he's probably going to be the number 1 amateur in the world at some point if he continues what he's doing. He's number 3 right now with James and potentially Koivu turning pro. The track record for number 1 amateurs in the world is really good. I mean, if you look at just the 60 or so guys that have been number 1 in the world as an amateur, the next 10, 15 years have normally gone pretty well. Not always, but a lot of times they have. So, yeah, I like him as my last pick.
And touching on Matt Wolff too, it shows that talent's not everything. You know, sometimes you need the stability at home or stability between the ears, and he was definitely more immature, and I think he would admit that coming out. So it's just there's so many different threads that all need to kind of work well together for you to have like ultimate success. So I mean, still hoping he gets it back because again, super fun guy to be around and to watch play when things are going well. Like Winged Foot against Bryson.
Oh,
I wish it was a little closer, but yeah, I mean he was fun to watch there for a while.
One of my favorite stats, Matt Wolff has more expected wins at majors over the last 10 years than Justin Thomas.
And Cam Young's probably up there as well, right? With expected
Cam
wins.
Young's up there. So expected wins is basically just how many strokes did you gain in a given week, like sort of correlates to a expected win. So if you gain 6 strokes in a week, your expected wins is 1 because it would almost be impossible for you to lose that major championship. Shout out to Phil in 2016 when he gained like 7 strokes and still lost. Wolff gained, I think it was like 5 something at Winged Foot per round. And it's an expected win rate of like 40, or I don't know, so maybe 60% of the time you're supposed to win. Well, Bryson gained like 6.5 or whatever. In Justin Thomas's 2 major wins, he didn't gain. I mean, he was at a strokes gain that didn't correlate with a high expected value in terms of winning that major championship. Obviously, the PGA at Southern Hills was not because he kind of sneaked into the playoff there, but also his PGA at Quail was not either. So that's kind of an interesting little strokes gain nugget there.
So I know I promised a super flyer for the 10th, but I feel like I have to go Joaquin Niemann because if I don't, there might be some pitchforks and
yes. Thank you for saving us. Who are you going to go with?
So Niemann will be there. I just, he hasn't played well in the majors, but we know the talent's there. I considered Sam Burns. I considered Thor Bjornsson, but kind of the health so far scares me. I mean, he's had back injuries, foot stuff, ankle stuff, wrist stuff. Chris Rytan is pretty electric, as we've seen the last few months. Like, just drives the crap out of the ball, putts the crap out of the ball. And then the flyer that I was gonna go the a current freshman right now at BYU, Kihei Akina, a player who, this is probably cliche, but he definitely passes the eye test. Like, he looks like he's 26. Like, he looks like he's 12, but he looks like he's 26, if that makes sense. Just the way that he goes about things. He's sort of the AJ DeBanza of college golf. You know, how BYU got him, probably a little bit of local, probably a little bit of finding the right NIL to get him to stay.
That crumble cookie money.
Exactly. So it's he's someone who, you know, could make me look really good if we look back in 15 years and he has like 2 or 3 majors. So he would have been someone that I would have picked if you didn't go with Neiman. And then just a few others just to, you know, jot down and keep track of for 20 years from now when we're all still doing this. Max Herendeen at Illinois, Arnie Svensson from LSU, who, I know Porath is big on the Icelandic pipeline coming up. Adam Bresnu, who's at Texas Tech right now. He's an NAIA guy, started at Odessa College, but he's from Morocco. Could be someone that sneaks up. Clark Van Galen, who plays at Oklahoma.
Of course.
Super raw, tall, like long levers, a lot of power. Just needs to learn how to play the game. And then the last name is someone that people might scratch their head, but Noah McWilliams. He plays at LSU. I call him the Bayou DJ, and it's a very apt comparison. Like, he's Dustin Johnson in every way, shape, and form. So he's the Bayou DJ.
Noah McWilliams. He looks like he's like he looks like he comes out of the pen and throws like 97.
Well, so funny enough is I call him the Bayou DJ, but within the team, they call him Kenny Powers. So
yeah. Can see it for sure.
He's also a big Dr. Pepper guy. He used to drink like a liter of Dr. Pepper a day, and now he's cut back. Yeah, he cut back. So
yeah, he looks like a character. I hope he makes it because I want to cover this guy. Okay, break it down for us, Jason. What stood out? What surprised you?
Well, I mean, Akshay, I was just waiting until, I'm surprised he didn't go a little bit earlier. I think with him especially, it's like surprising how young he is. He even said last week that he sort of forgets how young he is sometimes and compared to other players' careers. So I'm happy that you at least got him there in round 8. Kyle, your average age was 28. Brentley, yours was 25.7. So that was also interesting. You got some of the older guys in there. Hideki didn't really help, or Rory didn't help that either. But I think going out on a limb for Rory to basically have greater careers than some of the young guys is going to be pretty interesting to see in the next couple of years.
Should we do a Rory versus Koiven?
Yeah, I mean, like, what's more likely, that Rory has a better next 5 years or that Koiven has a better next 20 years?
It's a good question. Yeah,
I mean, like, okay, so if Rory puts up, let's say he wins one more major, 7 PGA Tour events, and like wins another 2 Ryder Cups, that's a career. Like, if Jackson Koiven has that career, he's doing pretty, I mean, that's like an awesome career.
Do you think if you offered him those stats that you just gave, he would take it?
Who, Rory?
No, Jackson. You say like, hey, you could have this career and just stop now. Would you take it?
I mean, he maybe should. That's basically Ricky Fowler's career.
I mean, there's some parallels, like similar accolades, similar games. I don't know. They're both kind of California natives too. People forget Koiven's from San Jose, Central California. But yeah, I don't know. He'll have a better career than Ricky, though. I think I can hopefully confidently say that.
Really?
And Ricky's he's had a good career too. But I think major wise, like that's what we judge guys on, right?
Yeah, I mean, yes, and I think that I think Ricky's career has gone from like, oh, maybe he disappointed a little bit, to kind of underrated. I mean, winning 7 times, winning a Players like Ryder Cup. I mean, he's had the accomplishments don't match what the hype was, but if you just look at like the resume with take his name out of it, it's been good. Like, it's been really solid. I think it's been a above average outcome for somebody that was coming out in his position. It's not a 99th percentile outcome, but I think it's certainly above 50%. I mean, look at Peter Uihlein, look at like other guys that have kind of been where Ricky was coming out that have not had that career. I mean, I think he's gone from overrated to kind of underrated historically.
Yeah, he just played in the wrong generation. If you went back and Ricky Fowler was playing with persimmons and balata balls and and he wasn't playing right now where you can hit it anywhere on the club face, I think Ricky would be. I mean, he'd be maybe one of the best ever. That might be hyperbolic, but you get the idea.
One of the best ever. We're gonna clip that for sure.
One of the best.
Your best pick, I think, was Rahm in the second round. I regret not taking him. Your worst pick, I think, was JT in the sixth round. No, that was okay. Maybe Cootie in the ninth. I'm out on Cootie. Maybe we'll see. But
we could do Cootie versus Dunlap. That'd probably be that's fair.
That's interesting.
Dunlap was the worst pick of the whole thing. I panicked. It's atrocious.
It's one of those things
of Goddard.
I thought about Goddard too.
Felt a little flash in the panty to me, but Dunlap. I mean, yeah, he's 21. He hasn't made a cut at a major yet, which is not ideal. But I guess I'll have to make the case for it. I mean, what's my best pick? What's my worst pick?
So I think your best pick is either Bryson or Ludwig. Both of those guys, I would have been the next pick that I had if it was my turn. And worst pick is Dunlap. Not to continually beat down on Dunlap and punch him while he's down, but he's going to need to turn it around because it's not been mostly has been pretty scary this last year and a half.
Where was he ranked in the Wagger before he won at American Express and came out? Was he a top 10 guy?
No, I think he was one.
Was he one?
Because remember he had won the USAM at Cherry Hills, and then he had come out. He had won at Maidstone, he had won at Maidstone. Had almost shot 59, by the way, and then came out and played Amex and won that. So yeah, I could be wrong, but I'm 95% sure he was the number one player in the world at that time because he was pretty highly ranked before he won the USAM as well, and that's another normal sport moment too from that USAM at Cherry Hills and he didn't reveal this until he turned pro. But before the semifinal match, he went to Dave & Buster's, and he was playing Down the Clown, which is the game where you throw the balls at all the different clowns and try to knock them down. And he threw out his arm, and so he had to get on a Zoom call. He had to get on a Zoom call with this trainer, and over Zoom, his trainer got him right, and he was able to then beat Shipley in the final and win the USAM. But that was he's probably the only guy like do you think Rory was going to Dave & Buster's the night before the Masters?
The last, let's see,
I'm sure he would have tried it if someone suggested it. He tried everything at some point.
I could see out of all the professionals in the top 10 in the world right now, I could see Scotty Scheffler going to Dave & Buster's during a tournament and playing Pop-A-Shot
or Spieth
and like eating like a French dip or like a burger or something.
I would bet. Here's a maybe we should clip this. I would bet Scotty any amount of money he wants to bet that I could beat him at Pop-A-Shot.
This is going to be I think this should be a Turtle Box sponsored event next year, 2026. Put it on the calendar.
Put your Masters winnings at whatever you want to bet, Scotty. I will. I don't have it, but I won't need it.
There's all the different styles of Pop-A-Shot too. You're talking about the one where the hoop remains stationary, the one where it starts moving after a certain time and it's worth more points is
No. The station. I've got a actual like branded Pop-A-Shot goal at my house.
Oh my goodness. Sounds like Scotty needs to just get in a car and drive down and he's competitive, so if you called him out on it, he might do it.
Play for whatever he wants. I'll play for it. Won't matter. Last five Wagger number ones: Gordon Sargent, Ludwig, Christian Lamprecht, Dunlap. I guess this is the last six. Clanton and Koiven are your last six. So going back to November 2022, those are the only six guys that have been number one in the world. as amateurs. Dunlap was only number 1 for 2 weeks because he turned pro. But yeah, I'm back in. The pedigree's there, so I'm back in on Dunlap.
To wrap it up, I was wondering, like, because you have a couple old guys and a couple really young guys in the mix, but what kind of runway are you giving the older guys in terms of like how long do you think they're going to stretch their career? I have the feeling it's getting shorter and shorter.
I think about it as 40 generally. I mean, I mean, as Brentley pointed out, we've seen guys win majors into their 40s, but I do think like Bryson past 40 is tough to envision, right? Rory past 40 is a little easier to envision than Bryson, but still, that's a lot. That's a lot of high level golf. These guys, I don't view them as, I think part of the reason guys sort of fade out a little bit earlier, somebody like a DJ, is because you don't need the money anymore. Like you have all the money you could ever need, you could ever like spend. And so maybe the desire or the want to isn't there like it was 50 or 60 years ago when the money actually like meant more. But I don't see any of these guys driven by that anyway. Maybe a Bryson, I guess, but I see them as like, freak competitors. I worry about Hideki with injuries. He's always hurt. Maybe he plays better when he's hurt, but the rest of them I don't really worry about up until age 40.
Yeah, 40, 41, 42, and it's kind of like a type of player too that has the longevity. I mean, when you think about guys who have played elite golf and majors, Phil, like tall and long swing, like not a lot of like just herky jerky. Ernie Els, Justin Rose, just kind of a similar, and Scotty kind of fits that mold too. So I could see Scotty playing a lot longer than maybe even like a Rory or certainly a Jackson Coyven and JT, all those guys, the guys who are like just smaller and have to get a lot more out of their bodies to keep up, as opposed to Scotty, who can kind of just bring it back and bring it back to the ball and then and still generate just as much energy.
Yeah, JT is going to be fascinating to see how he ages. Okay. We need to get you out of here, Brentley. My lights just went out, so it's a signal that it's time to go. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. This was a ton of fun. I feel like I learned one of my favorite things about doing these pods with guys like you or LKD or James Colgan is I always feel like I learned something talking about Scotty's short game. Like I hadn't thought about that being like the best part of his game, probably. And so just learning stuff like that is always very enjoyable to me. So keep up the good work. Have enjoyed watching you reading that piece on like the future of the tour was super interesting if people want to check that out. And best of luck for the rest of the year.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I think all those names you just mentioned, like experts in certain areas of their field, and I just try to be as close of an expert in some of the very niche areas of golf as I can, and do things that I love to do. And thanks for recognizing that and having me on. And Merry Christmas to both of you. And I had one question for you, Kyle. Before we go, and that was, you have experience buying gifts for kids that are both from you and your wife, and also from Santa. What's the ratio of gifts from Santa, and what's the ratio of gifts from you?
Yeah, it's 100% us, and that was my wife's decision. Not because we don't like want them to believe in Santa, but because my wife said, "I put a lot of work into this, and I want to get all the credit from the kids."
All right, Jason, thoughts?
I've got no kids, and so I don't know if I'm the real expert here, but
you're unbiased. You're coming at it from.
I gotta say I've said this before, but I think Jen knows the way to go here. I like that method. Just like you put in the work, take all the credit. Let the kids are going to grow out of it anyway at some point. So yeah, I like that.
We do 100% from us, so that she gets at least some credit for all the work that she puts in.
That's good. All right.
Awesome.
Well,
okay, Brentley. Thanks for the time, Jason. Merry Christmas.
Man.
Happy New
Thanks,
Year.
guys.
We'll see you in 2026.